Hey, Maria.
Hello.
I was just texting my backup facilitator that it was lonely in here.
Yeah.
So right now it's just the two of us, but there were four people signed up.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens.
All right. I'm going to mute myself.
Okay. Hey, Daniel. Welcome.
Hello,
How are you today?
I'm doing all right.
Great. I'm Stephanie Race, and we've also got Maria Adelano on with us. And we have a couple more people registered, so we'll give them a few minutes and see if they can get connected. We had a couple people yesterday who had problems connecting. So we'll give folks a minute to get here.
Okay.
So, and I'm chatting with the backup person. So, Roseanne, I know you can't, it's weird to talk to you and not have you on, but I just wanted to check Roseanne and see if you can hear us on the recording end, because we didn't check that yesterday. Okay, good. Well, I've got 3:02, so we're going to go ahead and get started, and hopefully the others will join us, because the more the merrier for discussions. I want to welcome you both to the I just went completely blank. It is definitely a Friday here. To the Academic Outreach Committee's Banned Book Week discussion. We're glad you're here. As you both know, I'm sure since you're online, Banned Book Week is an annual national event to focus attention on censorship and celebrating the freedom to read. And so the idea today is to just talk about things you're doing, things you're thinking about, brainstorming some ideas. And sent out a series of questions, but we'll go through those. But I'll introduce myself first, and then I'd love to have you both introduce yourselves. I'm Stephanie Race. I'm the head of research and faculty outreach at the University of North Florida in Jacksonville. And so, Daniel, if you'd like to start, I'm just going to go across the little line there.
My name's Daniel Hay. I work in Albuquerque, New Mexico, at the Central New Mexico Community College.
Okay. And Maria?
So,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Daniel.
I was just going to ask, are you currently in Jacksonville, Florida?
Yes, I am.
So am I.
Yeah, so Maria's actually across the hall from me.
Yeah, so I'm also at UNF, and I am marketing and student outreach librarian.
So you said that. Do you have some connections in Jacksonville, Daniel?
I'm from Jacksonville.
Oh.
I first half of my life I was out. I was growing up out there. So then I moved to New Mexico. So, but yeah, my older brother still lives out there. I think he's actually taking some. He's getting his certification in air conditioning, heating, and cooling and stuff out there. So.
Okay.
Yes.
Maria's been here longer than I have. Long time. So we have a series of questions questions, and I think, Daniel, I know you registered late, so I'm not sure you received the questions. But what I'd love to do is go through some of these questions, talk about them. This is a pretty free-flowing conversation, so wherever it goes is sort of where we'll take it. But the first question on our list is, what kind of programming are you doing in your library for Banned Book Week? Are you doing things outside the library, around campus, with other departments in the community? So one of you wants to jump in?
Ladies first.
Thank you. So part one of the question, the type of programming we are doing in the library. We are doing several events starting on Monday, September 28th and continuing into September 29th. The first event will be a sort of series of mini presentations by faculty members, hopefully, and other groups on campus in the library. And then we're also doing a read aloud in front of the library, where we're going to get volunteers, students, faculty, staff members, admin, etc., reading from their choice of banned books or challenged books, etc. Outside of the library, we are going to be promoting those two events at the, it's called a market day here on campus, sort of where they have vendors and other offices with tables. Students stop by and interact with us. And we're going to be doing activities, hopefully making buttons from book covers and such for students, and also telling them about what we're doing for Banned Books Week.
That all sounds really fantastic. We're not doing so many events really. So we've set up a display that highlights the books that have been banned. I've got little strips across them because people, anytime that they pick up a banned book, they always kind of say, well, why was this one banned? And I've actually got a picture on my phone, which I'm not sure if it'll show, but we've also created bookmarks that talk about 2014's top banned books, as well as the week before Banned Books Week. So at the community college, we've got a really nice distribution list for English instructors. So I just email all the English instructors, please let your students know that the banned books display is going to be up for the next week. Tell them that they can come by and check stuff out. One of our biggest struggles, I think, with the display, and I haven't quite figured out a way how to communicate this, is the people think that the books that we're displaying are banned and cannot be checked out. And so that's something that I'm struggling to kind of, these books are banned and challenged in other places, but they're available to you here, so please check them out. Like, I'm trying to figure out a way to kind of to get that across to people. But we had the same problem last year when people would look at a book and then it's like, well, I don't want to touch it because it's clearly been banned. So that's something that we're always kind of working on. Maybe better signage or something.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
I've seen pictures of other displays where they have that similar problem. So they'll say banned in Missouri, but not here, check me out. And they'll have a sort of sticker or a sign pointing at this book. Like, if you lived in, Utah, you couldn't read this book, but you live in New Mexico, so check it out, or something. So that might be a cute way to sort of get around that problem, or maybe interact more with the students and make them go, oh, I had no idea you couldn't read, and Tango makes 3 in, Colorado or something, but they could read it with you.
Pretty much anytime that I see somebody looking at the display, I kind of jump up and run over to them and say, you could check those out. That's kind of been my strategy so far.
That's interesting. Prior to coming here, I worked for a short time in a public library, and we wanted to do a readout. And it was a small conservative county, and we had plans. We wanted to do the readout on the courthouse steps, And when we proposed it, uh, everyone thought we were banning the books, and we had to actually cancel the event because there was so much concern about what would happen that we couldn't even
Hmm.
have the event.
Wow.
And it was something I hadn't anticipated because I've spent most of my career um, in slightly less conservative places, so it was just not something I anticipated. So the idea that students wouldn't think they could take them, that's kind of different as well.
It's kind of funny. My wife runs a graphic novel book club at the public library here in Albuquerque, and the last one that she did was Saga. And on all of her flyers, she thought, okay, Saga Volume One, I'll have the cover art of the book. And when she sent it through her superiors, they said, oh well, it's got breastfeeding on the cover, and we can't really show that. So, and it was kind of funny that she was like, this is one of the books that we're telling people like, oh, it's banned in other places, but you can read it here, but we don't want to promote it. So I don't know. Sometimes it is kind of ironic and funny.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. One of the interesting displays that I saw, I participated in one of these discussions a couple days ago. I didn't facilitate, I just participated. And somebody talked about doing um, a banned book bracket, sort of the March Madness kind of thing. And I thought it would be interesting. It's one of those things I need to tell Marie about to do it here because we don't have a football team, but we have basketball, and basketball's pretty darn big on campus. But they did the bracket, and who was it? SUNY Oneonta had actually done a. Somebody else talked about it on the session I was in, but I went and did a little research because we were talking about how would you do brackets online. Um, and SUNY Oneonta had done a presentation that they posted, and I'll share the link with you guys if I can tell.
I've seen that on social media before, where they do it with, like a Facebook, they do it with polls. So
Exactly.
vote for your choice, and then it goes into the bracket, and they update the bracket as it goes along. And
Yeah,
the book that
exactly.
wins is whatever.
Yeah,
But it's really
and it looked like in SUNY, and I know a lot of places have done the brackets for different kinds of things. They had done a physical bracket, and then they also did the online voting as well to get more participation. And so that just seemed like an interesting idea. And the person who was on the discussion on Wednesday who talked about it said it was hugely successful for them, but it took a lot of prep to pick the brackets. Um, that was a lot of work to pick the brackets, which was kind of interesting.
Hmm.
I thought that was an interesting kind of program.
yeah.
So, but and so Daniel, you talked about doing displays. Maria, are you guys? I, I should know this, but I don't. Are we doing some kind of display or exhibit here?
We are doing an exhibit. It's just so you know, Daniel, we have various committees. So I'm uh, the chair of the student outreach committee, but we also have an exhibits committee, and the exhibits committee is doing a banned books week. I think it's up for 2 weeks though, exhibit, and so we'll be displaying some of the books from our collection in that, as well as some that I guess people are bringing in because book covers are pretty. But yeah, that's going to be up for a few weeks, I think, the banned books exhibit.
Okay.
Nice.
But they can't check those books out. They're behind glass. But
That came up in yesterday's conversation.
right.
The behind glass, not behind glass kind of displays, and how'd you handle that? So,
With us, it's just a matter of that's the only thing we have currently is behind glass displays. We do also have some shelving in various places where we could do a display, but for the most part, our displays are behind lock and key. So it's hard to say, it's banned books week, read a banned book when they're behind glass. So, yeah. I'll have to figure a way out behind that, around that.
and have either of you done anything? One of the things I saw and that someone talked about was using the whiteboard. So you posted a question about banned books or censorship or something on a whiteboard and got student feedback. Have either of you done anything with that kind of project or thought
No, but
about it?
It's a good
that does sound
idea.
like a good idea.
I always feel like the whiteboard questions are just like the student feedback I always find fascinating, but I also feel like it's an easy way to go. It's kind of high impact with low effort if you get the right questions.
Hmm.
So yeah, one of the things Roseanne, who's actually lurking in the background as our backup facilitator, is at UNLV, and one of the things I had seen, they did a banned books buffet last year, and they're doing it again this year. She's working on it, and it's kind of it's not the link to they had a set of Facebook post photos, um, but they had a room in the photos. They have a room, and they did a bunch of different activities. One of them, they have um, I wish Roseanne could talk right now. In the pictures, they're sort of like whiteboard walls where they have posters, and the posters display different book covers and then different comments on them. They did, and they called that the banned book wall of shame. And so students were commenting on those. They did a book tasting, which was a guided activity to explore banned and challenged materials. They did a mugshot wall. Um, and so they had a lot of different activities going on in one room, and in the photos there seemed like there are a lot of people attending. And but she said last year was the first year, and so they're repeating it again this year. And that seemed like an interesting activity. But the banned book wall of shame looked kind of fun to me. So are either of you partnering with other campus groups or community groups for any of your activities?
Right, we are, and I've actually got a flyer here. I don't know if it'll show up well enough. Let's see, bring it up, down, there. Okay, so there is a community initiative. It's called BAND. That's what the big red logo up here in the corner is. It's basically everybody is involved locally. So we've got the Jacksonville Public Library. Most people in Northeast Florida, if they have to do with free speech. It started with the Holocaust Initiative called Remembering for the Future, Chamblitt's Book Mine, et cetera, et cetera. And basically it's all of us creating programming and activities, et cetera, surrounding Banned Books Week. And this initiative, it came to attention by somebody high-level VP at UNF, and he suggested that the UNF library take the reins and sort of put UNF in the conversation. So that's how it ended up in our lap, basically. Beyond that, community-wise, for the university, we are looking to partner with offices within our student affairs department, Office of Student Affairs, and departments within them to work on our different activities that we are putting on. So the Women's Center, I've contacted the Intercultural Center for Peace, Interfaith Center, the LGBT Resource Center, and there's going to be a few more that we get in touch with and see if they will take part in either our presentations on Monday or the read aloud on Tuesday, or both.
Those are some great ideas. I wish at my library last year we did a banned books display that we put for a week, and and my boss said, "Oh, this is great. Like next year we should do it for like 2 weeks. We should do it for a full month." And on September 1st, somebody at one of our CNM libraries realized that September is also Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, and said, "Hey, let's all do this instead."
Oh, yeah.
So I think originally we had figured out which libraries had banned books, and we were creating lists. So I think that it's kind of shrinking back to where we'll probably do it for a week, and it might. I'm not sure if the other, because we have like 5 CNN libraries within our system in Albuquerque. So I don't think it's likely that all the other libraries are also going to do banned books or not. I'm not kind of sure at this point whether or not they're going to do suicide prevention for the entire month of September, or if they're just going to do it for the first few weeks and see how it goes.
Right.
But I like some of the groups that you mentioned that you're reaching out to. I think that a lot of the stuff that gets banned in books kind of speaks to them. So that would be cool to kind of get their participation.
Definitely. We're also slightly, I would say lucky, but really it's unlucky in that Jacksonville has been doing a lot of banning lately. We had months ago, we had a thing go on in a local art museum, and the museum is actually owned by UNF. It's called MoCA downtown. And there was a rather provocative painting that was there that one of our city leaders, I can't remember if he's a councilman or something, but he saw it and he didn't like it. So he said it should be removed because children might see it. And it made news. It was on FARC. I think CNN even had a story. It was pretty bad. And then yeah, it was everywhere. It's not good. And then we had 2 books, was it, that were taken out of curriculum in Duval County. And those books, it was very ironic because those books were about freedom of speech, or censorship or something, and they got removed because they were, I can't remember what was wrong with them.
One of them, and I need to go back and look at it, but one of them had something to do with, I want to say it was children in Afghanistan or something.
Right.
Which was interesting because we have such a huge military presence here in
Right.
Jacksonville.
And I think maybe, I don't know if it was because Islam was something, it was something about terrorism, or somebody didn't like it, so they removed it from a school curriculum. And so we're hoping that our programming and such, it'll sort of tie into the things that our county has been known for lately. Which is sad, but true.
Yeah, I think I remember hearing about that. Their concern was that the kids were going to be basically pushed into becoming Islamic and
militants. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, they were afraid that it glorified terrorism or something. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Found them there.
Oh, yep, there they are.
But I think you make a good kind of point where one of the books was kind of just talking about how under this regime, isn't it horrible that people are being censored and they can't read, freely?
Mm-hmm. Tell me about it. Wow.
Let's pull that. I think what's interesting about this piece of the conversation is that the idea of the challenge is so foreign to us that we can't even figure out why it's been challenged. Like we can't retain why it's been challenged because it seems so foreign to us. And I think a lot of our students see that, where like it wouldn't occur to me to challenge something. So, and it looks like Kimberly has joined us, and I can't tell if she has a microphone or not. So, Kimberly, if you got a microphone, feel free to say hi and join the conversation. Or if you want to chat, I'll read out what you say in chat, so we'll make sure we get it on the recording.
Okay,
there you go. And we were just talking about who we partner with on campus. So if you'd like to introduce yourself and then tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
Hi, I'm Kimberly, and I help Catherine Hendricks at Ingram Library with displays. So we're just preparing for Banned Book Week.
Okay. And what we were just talking about is, do you partner with other campus units or community groups? And how do those partnerships work?
I don't think they do. I believe we partner with other departments on campus. So usually departments will come in and they'll, like the archaeology lab on campus will come in and want to do displays at the library. But for the most part, I don't think we partner with community groups.
Okay. Okay. Well, we were talking about the different groups. In one of the yesterday's discussion, reaching out to the Department of Ed and the theater department were 2 other groups that came up. Department of Ed was something I was like, okay, I see that. The theater department was something I hadn't really thought of. So I just thought that was an interesting group that people might consider. So just sort of working through our list of questions. Um, how, as you do these, for those of you who've been doing them for a while, how do your students, faculty, or staff respond to your Banned Book Week programming? Do you get a response?
Oh, this is the first time we've ever done programming events activities. In the past, we've always done just displays. Uh, there was one year where we had a display basically right in the entrance between the security gates, and students would be concerned about the books because we had them in a cauldron basically, and it looked like it was on fire because we had sort of paper mache blowing around, and it was very amusing because they thought that the books were in peril. But that was the only response that I think I ever received. That it was probably a little too scary. Most times it's just, oh, it's a nice display, and then they move on. So this year we're hoping for a little bit more.
I've gotten a few English instructors that actually work the banned book stuff into part of an assignment where you pick a book and you read it, you kind of give a book review on it. Um, I would like to do some of the kind of events that it sounds like you're doing. That I mean, I think that that's going to bring in a lot of people. I really like the reading idea. That seems really cool. But I mean, for the most part, I'll get somebody that'll check something out because they'll be like, "Oh, I didn't know that was banned. I was probably going to read this book anyways at some point, or I read that book a few years ago. I might reread it." But so far, I'm not getting a ton of response. I'm greedy. I always want more people checking out more books.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned the sort of writing assignments that go along. There was just in the ALA, whatever the email newsletter thing is we get, they had a top 10 things to do with a banned text, and I'll push out the link to that one. And it was interesting because they sort of alluded to we do displays, we do exhibits, but how do we get students really sort of involved in thinking about it? And then they had a list of primarily um, writing pieces that would go along with sort of have the students do a mock trial, why or why not the book should be banned, write warning labels for the books, sort of like what you, Daniel, it sounds like you're doing for the books you have on display. So it was just some interesting ideas for kind of things that could go along with your display to make it more interactive, which was something that came up in one of the conversations earlier in the week was I'm doing a display, but how do I actually get students involved to do something with it? So I kind of thought those ideas were interesting.
Yeah. Something else that I forgot to mention earlier, and now that I'm figuring out this chat thing, um, we've created a subject guide, a lit guide that talks about banned books, and that's a guide that originally we were thinking that we might actually promote on the library's homepage. So you go to the homepage and there'll be a big thing that says banned books. Click here for more information. So I'm not sure if that's going to get promoted this year or not, but it's there, and it's something that we kind of each year kind of revisit and update, just kind of as a resource.
Okay, and I'm going to add that to I have a list of notes going, so I'm just going to steal that and add it to the list.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
So, and that actually, and I'm going to have some more questions about that. So, Marie, you said this is the first time we've done something here at UNF, but do any of you do any kind of assessment or evaluation of the efforts or have plans to do any kind of assessment? This is the hard part.
I think higher ups always like the idea of assessments and evaluations. but they never like giving you any kind of criteria. So it's one of those things where I also run a book group, and they say, well, is it successful? And I say, yes, it is. And they say, how? Like, prove it. Like, give me numbers. And it's one of those things where I think that with a lot of outreach stuff, it's kind of difficult to say, I had 4 people show up and we had a great book discussion. Yeah, well, last time you had 8 people show up. Yeah, but it was a mediocre discussion. It's like, yeah, but you had more people. It's like, and I think trying to figure out how you assess the success of something like this. I mean, one obvious way I would think is at the end of it, you would see how many of the banned books displayed are now checked out. Like that might be one way, but I don't know. I've not gotten any kind of ideas on how to sort of figure out if something like this is actually working. Which I don't know. I always kind of argue that if one person checks out a book that they may not have checked out, then I'll take it. I always want more, but um, have you guys had any kind of assessment for your outreach effort or events?
Yes. Yes, I say that, and yes, that's a huge push for us. Every time we do an event, we are trying to incorporate assessment in interesting, different ways. We do surveys. We recently had a welcome back breakfast that we did for students, in which we had 134 stop by. Each and every one had to fill out a survey in order to get their free breakfast. So we sort of force them to do our work for us, and then you get to tabulate everything and put it in a spreadsheet. Fun stuff. But we don't have anything specifically in mind for our 2 events. But I see what you mean about displays and assessment, because we did a little bit of assessment with Blind Date with a Book when we did that in February. And that was basically, okay, how many books were checked out? 57. What sort of books were checked out? Why didn't this genre get checked out more than that one? And so on. But yeah, that's basically. I guess we have to do some sort of survey or some sort of counting for both of our events, and something else to figure out.
Marie and I are having a meeting after the meeting today to talk about this stuff. So our lists are going to get longer. One of the things, and this came up in one of the discussions earlier this week, was this is the really difficult thing, because what are we trying to assess? And I think Tanya put it really well. How do you know that there's impact? I mean, because I completely get your point. 4 students there for a great discussion is much more, to me, impactful than 8 students who are just kind of hanging around. Having higher numbers does not necessarily equate to more impact. But assessment, and then someone in one of the earlier groups talked about if we do too much surveying, they won't come.
Right.
There's a point at which we start to scare people away, because it's a library event and they're going to make me answer a survey, and I don't want to do that. And I thought that was an interesting point.
We haven't reached that threshold yet. I think our students in fact, when we do things and there isn't a survey, they're very surprised. So I think they're sort of used to it on campus of, if I want that free slice of pizza, I'm going to have to vote in the student government, elections or something. They're just sort of used to it. But I'm trying to think of ways to use numbers, even if it's just, okay, we had 57 books checked out for Blind Date with a Book in February. But I guess a way to follow up on that would be, well, one of the books that was checked out, it was checked out twice, but the last time it had been checked out was 2 years ago. So the fact that we put it on 2 students' radar, it was a book that hadn't been checked out in a long time, and then it was checked out twice consecutively and over the span of 2 weeks. So we're proving that just by giving that book, space on a shelf on the first floor, that suddenly it becomes more popular, and et cetera, et cetera. That might be a way to look at
it. And maybe to do some look at it later. Do those books get checked out again, perhaps because someone recommended it. You know, the two people read it and hadn't been touched, and now it gets touched more because somebody's seen it and is talking about it.
Right.
Though I can't imagine how much labor that would be.
Yeah. I also considered with open shelf or open displays, basically, in those books to maybe put some sort of bookmark or something that says, if you like this book, you might like these other books. And so if they checked out one, they'd have some sort of literature that suggests that they check out others like it. So you can look to see in your catalog or whatever to see if those books are also being checked out, along with the ones that you actually put on display.
That would be
And that
interesting.
might help.
Yeah. So, questions, how are you marketing or advertising your events? How do you let people know that they're happening?
We put ours on our library blog, but the library blog doesn't get a lot of traffic, so that's the issue that we have, is trying to put it in social media, but our social media areas don't get traffic like we would like it to.
Ours don't either. It gets some traffic, but not as much. We are going to rely on word of mouth and newsletters that are circulated, both students and faculty and staff on campus, as well as other events to promote the events. So we're using I think I mentioned the market day, that we will be handing out flyers and information about what we're doing the week previous to or prior to Banned Books Week.
I've been I've printed out a bunch of bookmarks that I've kind of left around campus. Also, each book that I've got on display has a Banned Books bookmark in it. So sometimes I'll have people who, even if they don't check that particular book out, they'll still take the bookmark with them. I've like I said earlier, I also email the English instructors. Something I'm going to try to do is we actually have a campus distribution list. So I'm going to see if I can get permission to use that to actually just let everybody that works at Montoya campus know there's this book display coming up. When it comes to social media, our marketing and communication office doesn't really like us to, there's no C&M Library Facebook page or Twitter account or something. They kind of like everything to sort of be funneled through them. So I do plan on working with them to see if they can kind of mention, hey, it's Banned Books Week to, their followers, because the C&M actually has a fair amount of people that participate in social media. So I mean, I think that's a good market. But I mean, we'll see how that goes.
Does your campus have a sort of unified calendar?
We do.
Because you might want to put that up. I just submitted ours for our events calendar for the university, and they have to approve it. And then once it's on the calendar, it can be submitted to our newsletters. So, and again, everything is approved by our marketing and publications. It sounds similar to the communications office that you have. They control the message, but we have to funnel it through them to get anywhere.
Right. We've got a
Sorry.
That's okay. I was just saying that we do have a calendar that it's actually kind of nice on the main C&M homepage. It actually populates with upcoming events.
Even better, because that way if they go to the page, then they'll see library display, Banned Books Week.
But I've honestly never thought about using it for just, because I always use it for, come to my book club, like come to this, come to story time, come to events. Mm-hmm. But I think that's a great idea to actually do it to come to our book display.
If they allow it, then yeah. I mean, we started putting things up on the calendar that we offer tutoring now in the library. So every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, it's on the official calendar for UNF. It clutters things up a bit, but that way students, when they look at the daily view, they'll see tutoring in the library. And even though it's not a specific event, it's a recurring event. They still allowed it. I was surprised. So it's
Well,
there.
you know, and it's interesting because the first time I saw it, I'm like, gosh, there's a lot of these. And then I realized every time they do the playground class at the gym, it's on the calendar. So why shouldn't tutoring be on the calendar?
Exactly. And they print out daily sheets with things going on around campus, and they post them on different areas, like in the student union, for example. So it's not that cluttered when you look at it, where it just has one thing for tutoring. If you look at the whole month, it's extremely cluttered, but they don't need to know that.
So, what lessons have you learned from the um, Band Book Week programming? Any?
I would like to say that it's probably a good idea to get all your stakeholders and all your like the people who are supporting it to commit to it early, um, because I feel kind of like this year I just sort of assumed, well, it's September, it's time for Banned Books Month, and I didn't really put any feelers out for like, do we still want to continue doing this as an annual event? Because I just sort of assumed. Um, so that's something I've kind of learned, is to not take that for granted. To, you know, I don't know, last month I should have been saying, we're doing this again this year, aren't we? Um, because I think when you confirm that stuff earlier, then you can get the flyers made and you can put, stuff into calendars, and really kind of coordinate and organize stuff a bit better.
Yeah, we got a late start as well. We have an awful lot going on this semester, so it's yeah. So start early would be my first suggestion, but also just try something different. Because we've done displays for years now, and I think this will be a very interesting way to differentiate ourselves from what we've been doing. And again, it's a community initiative. It's something that they're really pushing, that we're trying to really push to have most of campus involved. So we'll see how it goes.
Cool.
And anything you've done that's been super successful for Band Book Week activities in the past? I know for us, it's all new for us. But anything anybody's
So
done?
far, displays and flyers are pretty much the only thing that I've done with kind of minimal success. I am looking at, as soon as I get to work on Monday, I will definitely submit it as a calendar event. Well, I'm going to double check that we're still doing it. But I think that that's a wonderful idea. Something else that I've also kind of learned is that we're trying to figure out how to do things cheaper. And I think that kind of an electronic calendar is a great way to sort of cut back on, instead of putting up flyers all over campus, you're just notifying people, through their tablets and through email and that kind of stuff.
Right. I'm really hoping that the read aloud goes well. The presentation portion of it could be, a few people there and still be fun. But the read aloud, I want dozens of people reading from the book. So hopefully when we have this discussion next year, I'll be able to say that the most successful activity we did was our read aloud outside of the library. And it was awesome.
I'm excited about the readout. That's something I've always wanted to do, so I'm pleased that we're doing that one. So I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it. And you may not have done something, but if there are ideas you have of virtual activities or events for Band Book Week, things you've thought about.
No, I've not really thought about any kind of. I mean, we should, because we do have a large distance learning population at our college. that it would be nice to somehow involve them. I mean, if I was doing something as cool as a read aloud event, maybe some of those people might be willing to have their readings like videotaped, and that could be uploaded to something. Um, but no, I haven't really figured out how to create it more of as a virtual thing, aside from the web page of resources and stuff.
Somebody in one of the discussions, I think it was Wednesday, they did some recordings of students reading out loud. So they did some recordings of students reading passages, and then I think they said they put them up on their YouTube channel. But it might be interesting just to get a series of, and they actually, what did they were student assistants and staff. That's who did it. Um, but to do some just little small short clips of people reading and use them as maybe promos for an event to run, post them up on social media the week before perhaps to do that.
Okay.
I know here I think our new batch of student assistants would be interested in doing that. So I think Maria might be able to tag some people. Somebody talked about doing an Instagram challenge where they ask people to take photos of their favorite banned or challenged book, or a picture of themselves reading a banned or challenged book, and then post it on their Instagram they had hashtags for the event, and then they picked their favorite and gave out prizes. I think that's the kind of thing you could do without even giving out prizes, and people might participate.
Yeah. In the early stages of planning our activities, we had thrown around the idea of doing sort of Twitter haiku contest, sort of boil down free speech or censorship into a haiku, and whoever had the best haiku would get a bag of library swag or something. But we were starting to plan ourselves into exhaustion, so we did away with that. But maybe next year.
Or you've got April Poetry Month.
That was
Yeah.
in my head. I was thinking
Yeah.
that could be done for Poetry Month.
Sure. I'm good with planning for April already.
I just want to get this week over. This has been a really long week here. Okay, so the other question we have is, um, are you tying in anything with the national program? Are you using materials ALA sells? Are you using anything they've put out through social media? Any of that kind of stuff that you're doing?
I'm not. We recently got toner for our color printer, so I am excited about the possibility of kind of, because each year I try to match their style. That when the ALA says like this is how, I think one of them was like missing banned books.
Yeah.
Uh, and so each year I try to do something that kind of aligns with that. Um, but unfortunately, we just don't seem to have the planning together to actually order supplies from the ALA or anything like that just yet. But
Our exhibits committee ordered a bunch of materials from ALA to use in their display. So that was the first time we've ever done that. So hopefully it'll look very nice. Usually I just do a poster or something to go in our exhibit case, but this will be a little special. And I'll, of course, be promoting our events and Banned Books Week throughout the week on social media. So I'm sure I'll use their hashtags or mention them or something on Facebook or Twitter to hopefully get some more interest from other people tweeting or posting about Banned Books Week.
I think we end up timing wise. This may be good for us. We have a large event planned next week, and then we have a meeting the following week with some very involved faculty, which I think might help us get some traction with the faculty part of this, who might send students, which is always a good thing. So other things you all
yeah,
want
it's always the plan.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I missed that last part.
Oh no, I was started to speak and then I missed what you said. So we're
Oh no, I was just saying that that's a great way, I think, for stuff to kind of trickle down, is you know getting teachers to show their support and then kind of bringing in students that way. But
Mhm.
I could have just done this.
Oh, well, we very much appreciate you guys for joining us, and it's interesting to me what kind of a discussion you can have with just the four of us on today. The ideas that come out and things that get discussed. So I hope that you all learned something from today's discussion. Next month in October, we're going to be talking about outreach programming during final exam period. So early October 12th through the 15th, and we hope you'll come back for that conversation. Bring your ideas, things to share, questions you have, um, as we start all planning for final exams already. Um, I will be sending out an email following this with a survey. We hope you'll complete that, and that'll just help us as we prepare for the next sessions. What can we do to make these go more smoothly? What other topics you're interested in, anything like that. But thank you both, all three of you, for joining us. Kimberly's been quiet, but I hope that, Kimberly, you've gotten some ideas from the discussion we've had. And
I
we look
did.
great, and we look
This
forward to
was
seeing you all next month.
okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.